Math is a wonderful thing. Math is a really cool thing.
Alright, so the following are the common mistakes for our Unit 2 online test review. So the first common mistake is about solving for x. So it's a literal equation problem. So in this case, we need to solve for x. So what we have here is 180 equals 2x plus y. So note that I need to solve for x here. Now 2x is being added to y. So I need to remove my y here first. So the opposite of adding y is to subtract y to both sides. We can now cancel this. We'll have here 180 minus y equals 2x. Now I have here 2 times x. So we are multiplying 2 to our x. So we have to use the inverse operation. This is multiplication. Then I have to divide 2 to both sides. Using our multiplicative inverse, this will cancel out. We'll end up getting x equals 180 minus y over 2. And this expression here, or this equation here, is already can be found in our choices. It is actually this one. So the correct answer for this problem is x equals 180 minus y over 2. Now, assuming that you try to simplify this further, we can separate our numerator, divide it with the same denominator. Now, 180 divided by 2 is just 90. 90 over 2 cannot be simplified anymore, so it should be equal to y over 2 equals x. So if you're going to simplify further, this will be the result. But I don't have this in our choices. So we can just go back and then say this will be our final answer. Next common mistake, it's identifying the property that justifies the work between step 4 and step 5. So we need to identify the work in order to get step 5 from step 4. So we'll just try to identify all the properties that we have from step 1 to step 7 as a review. So for the first one, that is always our given. From step 1 to step 2, we just added a negative 2 to both sides. So we can say addition property. Now, if we don't have addition property as one of the options here, then we can just say subtraction property. Now, from step 2 to step 3, we just added 2 and negative 2. It became 0. So 2 plus negative 2 equals 0 is actually additive inverse. And then 3 to 4, we added negative for x and 0. And we know that anything added to 0 will just give us that same expression, negative for x. So this one is additive identity. Now, from step 4 to 5, note that we just multiplied by negative 1/4. That's all that we did here. We just multiplied by negative 1/4. We have not canceled, we have not done anything. It's just multiplication of negative 1/4 to both sides. And that should be multiplication property of inequality. So the answer here should be multiplication property of inequality. Okay, so this should be the answer. Now let's just proceed and finish identifying the properties for each step. From step 5 to 6, note that we canceled negative 1/4 and negative 4. It became 1. So that is actually your multiplicative inverse. And then 1 times x is just equal to x. That is our multiplicative identity. So again, the answer here is from 4 to 5 is multiplication property of inequality. Alright, next common mistake. Um, find the value of w that satisfies this inequality. Okay, so we have two different ways on how to solve this. Either we distribute negative 3 to our w minus 8, or we can just divide negative 3 to both sides. So we'll just show the distributive property first. So we'll have negative 3w, and then negative 3 times negative 8, that's positive 24, less than negative 27. Subtract 24 to both sides. Bring down negative 3w, less than, this is just negative 51. And then divide both sides by negative 3. Since we divided by negative, we are going to flip our inequality. Now negative over negative is positive. Now 51 divided by 3 is equal to 17. Now we need to find the value of w that should be greater than 17. So we should not be choosing D here. We have to choose the value that is more than 17. In this case, it should be 28. So that's the answer here. Now the other procedure is by dividing both sides by negative 3. So this will cancel out. We'll have w minus 8. Now we divided by negative, so I have to flip our inequality. Now negative 27 over negative 3 is equal to positive 9. Now adding 8 to both sides will get w greater than 17. And again, I have to identify the value of w that should be greater than 17. The correct answer is 28. Next, common mistake. So Mark needs to buy a fence to put around his rectangular yard for his dog Max. Mark forgot the width of his yard but knows the length. So the length is equal to 50 yards. Now his wife told him to buy 250 yards of fence, so that should be our perimeter. Possible maximum perimeter will be 250 yards. So we can say that
The perimeter can be equal to 250. It's also possible that the perimeter will be less than 250. What is the greatest possible width for Mark's yards? We're trying to find the width, or the greatest possible width. So whatever this value is, the w or the width should be equal to that value, or it can be less than that value.
so since we're trying to find the perimeter here, or since we have here a rectangular yard, we are going to use the formula 2L plus 2W equals P. But again, the perimeter can be equal to 250, and again, depending upon the value of our width, the perimeter can also be less than 250. So we can now replace L by 50, 2W less than or equal to 250. This is equal to 100 plus 2W less than or equal to 250. Subtract 100 to both sides. We'll get 2W less than or equal to 150. Now divide by 2. So W should be less than or equal to 75. So the greatest possible width for Mark's yard should be 75 yards. Next, common mistake. This is a multiple response item. We need to select all solutions that we can identify so that 2x minus 4 over 3 is less than x minus 2 over 4. So how are we going to solve this? We can remove or undo our we can remove first our denominator by multiplying both sides by the LCD. So what's the LCD of 3 and 4? That should be 12. So multiply this by 12, multiply this by 12. Now before we distribute your 12 to 2x minus 4, it's better for us to divide 12 by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. Then 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Less than. Now again, before we multiply x minus 2 by 12, let's first divide 12 by 4. That's equal to 3. And then 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Now let's undo our x's here. I have 3x, I have 8x. So let's remove 3x here. Subtract 3x to both sides. We'll get 5x minus 16 less than negative 6. So add 16 to both sides. We'll get 5x less than 10. Divide by 5. We'll get x less than 2. So we need to identify all values here that is less than 2. Negative 0.75 is less than 2, so we have to choose this. 4 is not less than 2. 5.5 is not less than 2. 0 is less than 2. Now 2 is not less than 2, so we should not be choosing this one. 1 is less than 2, so we have to choose this. So we have here 3 possible answers. Alright, last question. So we have here RMS, Rock Middle School, is planning to have a field trip to a museum.
The museum specifies that there needs to be one chaperone for every 4 students.
If the maximum number of people allowed on the field trip is 700, so maximum is 700, what is the maximum number of students able to visit the museum? Alright, first let's try to identify how many groups can go given that the maximum number of people allowed on the field trip is 700. So in a group, we have 4 students and we should have 1 teacher. So in one group, I have a total of 5 people. One group will consist of 5 people. So how many groups can be formed if the maximum number of people allowed on the field trip is 700? So 700 per group, we have 5 people, so we will divide this by 5 to identify the number of groups. So 700 divided by 5 will give us 140 groups. So if we have 140 groups and each group consists of 1 teacher, for each group we have 1 teacher and we have 4 students. But since we have 140 groups, I can just multiply the 140 by 4 because each group consists of 4 students. So if we have 140 groups and each group consists of 4 students, so just multiply 4 by 140, you will be getting 560 also. So the maximum number of students that can come and visit museum is 560. All right, there we go. This is the end of our discussion for our common mistakes. Hopefully this review will help you out for our unit test tomorrow. Let me know if you still have some questions. I'll try to reply or email you back if you have any further questions. All right, I'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Math is a wonderful thing. Math is a really cool thing.